So yesterday on the Strongest Man on Earth YouTube channel, Brian Shaw announced the full list of athletes that are going to be competing at this year's Strongest Man on Earth in Loveland, Colorado. There has been some massive names been added to it.
Yeah.
There's been one, obviously, World's Strongest Man added to it.
Yeah.
But from what we were looking at online and from things we see, there's been a bit of an upset when it comes to the athletes that have been announced. So I think before we get into it, we'll just name the athletes that are going to be competing. So for this year's Strongest Man on Earth, we had 8 invites, say from the very get-go, I think it was nearly.
Yeah.
So we had Mitchell Hooper, Lucas Hatton, Trey Mitchell, Austin Andrade, Tom Stoutman, Maxime Boudreau, Josh Spurgeon, and Hafthor Bjornsson.
Mm-hmm.
So they were all invited. So from a video from 2 weeks ago, we know that obviously Hafthor Bjornsson will not be competing at this year's Strongest Man on Earth. According to Brian, he wanted a bit of time to decide whether he was going to compete or not, and ultimately he just decided that.
I think, like we said it, and what Thor texted me as well.
Yeah.
One of the events, he just
Standing chest press.
He didn't want to risk.
Yeah, which look very fair. He's entitled to obviously compete. If he doesn't want to compete, he doesn't have to. So the next 8 and the final athletes for the Strongest Man on Earth this year. So we had the 2025 World Strongest Man Rain O'Neill has been invited. We then have Evan Singleton, Bobby Thompson, Thomas Evans, Andre Futu, Wes Derwinski, Eddie Williams, Shane Flowers, Bryce Johnson, and then the first alternate then we have is Tristan Hoth. So before we actually go through all the athletes and give our opinions on it, we think it's best to go through the events that will be going at this year's Strongest Man on Earth. I don't think we made a video. Maybe we did. I can't think off the top of my head.
No,
I don't think we did.
No, we didn't.
So,
We were busy that week.
Yeah. So the events for Strongest Man on Earth. So we have the max log press. We then have the return of the stand and chest press. We then have a trap deadlift, so a trap bar deadlift or a side handle deadlift as it's known on that. We then have a frame carry into arm over arm medley, a super yoke, manhood stones. We then have a max weight keg toss, and then as it was, we had a tire flip into power stairs, but as Brian announced in the video from yesterday, that has now been changed. We still have the power stairs. However, he got a new sponsor, so they're actually making a new piece of equipment for the first round of the last event. He didn't disclose, but known Strongest Man on Earth, it's going to be
interesting,
incredibly heavy
and complicated.
And big. I still can't get over the size of that standing chest press.
Bulky and leg press just as large. Well, and the squat event that was unnecessarily just humongous.
I still think the standing chest press was the biggest machine, like the tallest machine. It was.
No, I think the squat. We weren't there when the squat machine was introduced.
Okay, very fair. Yeah.
I think that was like I said, just
ginormous,
just big.
So like we were saying at the start of the video, some of the athletes that have been invited, I don't think it's gone down very well with, say, some of the strongman community online. Seen it on Reddit, I've seen it on comments from other videos.
And understandably why.
Yeah, so we just looked at some of the athletes. Yeah. Now, obviously, some of the athletes that we thought about, say, before World's Strongest Man have been invited. Then, obviously, the way World's Strongest Man went, like in particular, Rain O'Neill, before World's Strongest Man, we would have never put him on the list.
You have to invite him, and there was even speculations that he wouldn't do it, and he was advised by a couple of people not to do it, just to make the most out of winning the World's Strongest Man. Yeah, I'm talking about Rain O'Neill. Yeah. So, and him and his coach decided to do Strongest Man on Earth. But I know that a couple of people were kind of advising him not to do that. Yeah. And just enjoy being the world's strongest man for like at least half a year or more, So, but he didn't listen to them. He decided to compete in Strongest Man on Earth, and I think it was it the right decision? I think from a strongman, I think it was. I think as a strongman and as a world's strongest man winner, you should compete as many times as possible, and just to show the world that you are the world's strongest man for a reason. Yeah. Instead of maybe. And as we know, just relaxing. As we know, a strongman, you only have a finite, unless you're Big Z, obviously, but you only have a finite amount of time where you actually compete at the highest level. Yeah, it depends. It depends, I think, on an athlete Big Z, he had a long career. Mitch Hooper still kind of having a long career, Tom, we know that he peaks really well for the world's strongest man, and then he kind of fluctuates. He fluctuates when it comes to Giants Live and performing in other competition at the highest level and at the highest of his capabilities, So, but I think it's good that Ryan O'Neill is competing, and hopefully he'll do well, and hopefully he'll get invitations to the Rogue Invitationals as well,
So some of the other athletes that like were obviously invited on the list.
Yeah.
So we have 7 athletes out of the top 10 that were in World's Strongest Man. And like we were saying, before World's Strongest Man, you would have had a different list.
Yeah.
And then obviously after Worlds, you're going to have a different list again.
Yeah, 100%, because we already talked about in private that there's no big competition after the World's Strongest Man.
No.
So top 10 guys who finish in the World's Strongest Man
are the 10 strongest at
are
the
the
time.
strongest at the time. And, so I don't know how Brian, how his thought process is, but I would say, right, these guys automatically should be invited, because it's not like you're going for the 10 guys. You in Brian's competition, it's 16 athletes. Yeah. So I would presume that's what I would do if I had such a big competition, going. So I would do that. But Brian has clearly a different kind of approach to who he's inviting to his competition.
But he explained, obviously, like I didn't realize I had an idea roughly of how it goes together. Like obviously it's an invitational show.
Yeah.
As such, like, so I always wondered like how he picks it, and he decided himself that like top 3 Rogue Invitational, top 3 Arnold, top 5 in his show from the previous year, and then obviously the athletes that are competing at the World's Strongest Man, the top 3, I think he said of that as well.
Yeah.
So.
If you look at it, there's a couple of guys who compete in the World's Strongest Man, and this year's World's Strongest Man was similar to Brian Shaw competition, if you ask me. Because the carrying of the points from the heats into the finals, and you have to perform really well in every single event if you want to finish well in World's Strongest Man. So it's kind of like, to me, it's similarities are there.
Yeah, because
to each other.
World's Strongest Man this year was nearly like a 10 event show.
Yeah.
Like over 4 days.
And
Brian's is 8 events over 2
days. Yeah. So I would say these top 10 guys in the World's Strongest Man are deserving to be invited to this show as well. But like I said, Brian has different criteria when it comes to who's invited to his show. Now, I think he looked at the events, and the guys who weren't invited most likely won't do well in his presumption that they won't do well in these events.
Again, it's all up to...
We can start kind of naming the guys, for example, Paddy Haynes.
Yeah, Paddy Haynes, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal World's Strongest Man. Like you think of so first place, obviously, Ryan O'Neill. We know, it was crazy how he came over there, but then you have Mitchell Hooper, Tom Stoneman, and Trey Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Those 4 athletes.
Yeah.
And then you're next after those 4 athletes.
Yeah.
That is a serious place to finish.
Yeah, that's a big statement, and it's a great achievement, So I presume that he would be invited to Strongest Man on Earth competition. But looking into events, I can see why he wouldn't be.
His overhead is not the most powerful.
So I presume that his chest press wouldn't be good either.
No, he said I think in a recent video he said his best his best bench press of all time, I think it happened a year and a half ago, was 170 kilos.
Yeah, that's
so for that you're going to get injured. Now I really think when you see some of the other events like the trap deadlift, now I know trap deadlift is more leg powered and it is.
Well, Paddy, I think he can do really well in that event,
because you still have technique for deadlifts, you still have the leg strength.
Yeah, so I think log for max, he's dropping massive points. He's at the bottom straight away. Standing chest press, probably close to the bottom as well, because his bench press is not great, and that correlates with that event.
Yeah, very easy.
Yeah. So and
trap
deadlift, I think he would do well. Yoke,
it's hard to know.
Yeah, maybe
the weight,
so I think based on these 2 events, probably that's why he didn't really invite him, because otherwise I think there's other guys who compete in the World's Strongest Man and they didn't perform at all. Like Paddy, at least he had performed, and it's possible that because he progressed a good bit from the last year.
Like when we seen him at UK Strongest Man last year,
he didn't even finish top 3.
He's after doubling in size.
Yeah,
he's after kind of getting his diet has been nailed down correctly now. His peaks for shows.
So who's to say that comes August, he's not going to be even stronger? I think it's quite possible. you know, especially now that he knows the events. But nevertheless, so he's not invited.
Yeah, which is, look, it's a big shame.
Yeah.
And as well as that, we were looking at some of the athletes. We know that Evan Singleton is there.
Yes.
He got invited, and he has a torn bicep.
Yes, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I know. Look, we know that Evan is a wild guy.
Yeah, crazy.
He's a wild guy. So, and I think he's risking it to even make it worse. Like most of the times, and he didn't go for the surgery.
No.
I think it takes more than a year to fully heal.
Even with the surgery.
Yeah, no, with the surgery, but like you will. I think with the surgery you heal faster. But even if you don't get the surgery, just for everything to, I don't know, to heal and, you know, everything to reattach the way it will reattach, I think you need more time than he's giving his body right now.
But you look at, say, the events that are going to be there. Think of bicep pressure, right? Trap deadlift. I know you have the straps. Still going to have bicep.
Still going to involve biceps.
Frame carry into arm over arm. Biceps.
Arm over arm, biceps.
Yeah. Manhood stones.
Yes,
biceps. Max weight cake toss. Biceps. Power stairs. Biceps.
Log press clean. Biceps.
Biceps.
Yes. And especially with Evan, he's wild with his clean. So that's biceps. I don't know, like I think it's quite possible that he might get injured again.
Yeah, it's starting to look that way.
It wouldn't surprise me. And when I was competing in the Arnold Classic, for example, Krzysztof Radzikowski, he damaged his triceps, I think a year before the competition. And then he came into competition. You can see that arm, like he said, and I asked him, was it a bad tear? I was like, oh no, it wasn't that bad, you know. And but I can see visibly that the muscle, that the triceps was smaller. What comes to Radzikowski, he finished it off a year after the competition. He completed. Then he went for the surgery.
Yeah.
Because there was probably partial tear. He thought he can train around it and it'll be okay. It wasn't.
Yeah, he got the most money out of that surgery.
So I don't know why Evan is not going for the surgery. I would have went.
Yeah, you obviously you agree with going for surgery.
Yeah, I agree. Like when you have like these bad tears and, like, you know, like I think it's just a mandatory, because if you don't, you can heal up, but I think it's still gonna be like potentially.
It's going to be weaker.
Yes, weaker. But after surgery, it will be weaker as well. But at least, like, I think it's just it's more. If you get a good surgeon, he'll do a good job, and at least it's going to be at 90%.
But that's what I mean. I don't mean weaker as in the actual physical strength. I mean, like, if you let it heal naturally, the tendons aren't going to be as strong.
No, it won't. It won't. They might say that it will be, because there will be like some sort of semi-calcification and healing all over the tendon and muscle and stuff like that. But I think it's that's my opinion. I think it's a mistake. I don't know. Did he go to a surgeon or a doctor, and the doctor says, look, it's not worth it? But if it's not worth it, if I was Evan, I would take the year out. Just
do it. Yeah. Another athlete we were looking on the list, Bryce Johnson. So we were looking to see, like,
that's a weird one.
Yeah. So why Bryce got invited?
Yes.
He never really won anything major.
Yeah.
Like, he came second in the official strongman games last year. He competed at the Shaw Classic Amateurs in 2023 and 22, I think it was, and finished 8th and 9th place respectively. I think 9th in 2023 and 8th in 2022.
Yeah.
So, like, he's been to the Shaw Classic Men's Open. He's shown that, obviously that's a couple of years ago at this stage, but he's never won anything, I think, to deserve a spot there over some of the athletes that were at Worlds.
Like Luke Stallman.
Yeah.
I know we know Luke did some
whatever maybe
stuff with his personal life, but is it to do with that Brian is not invited him? We don't know. But
when you see Luke compared to the events that are there, Luke is very suited to some
I
of the
think
events
I think like Luke would do really well in these events. Like, his deadlift is not great, but deadlift is not there.
No. It's trap bar.
Trap bar. He has pretty good squat. His legs are strong, you know, so I think he'll do well. He's good at stone. He's good at log. He's good at, like, I think
super yoke.
Super yoke is pretty good. Like, I think he would do a better job than
some of the athletes.
Some of the athletes, you know. So it's a couple of things is strange, but I think only Brian can explain to us why he chose these athletes over the other 3 athletes who placed top 10 in the World's Strongest Man, you know. So to me, like I said, I would invite top 10 straight away, pretty much, you know.
Because considering, like, so Pavel Kordiak is not invited. He was at Shaw Classic last year.
Yeah. Wes Dervinsky as well. He's invited. And his performance in World's Strongest Man,
he didn't even make it into the top 10.
Yeah, like wasn't great at all. And
No.
at the start, I really thought that he, like a year ago, 2 years ago, when he burst into the scene, I really thought he's gonna be a kind of next big thing, but he plateaued so fast.
Like last year, like even for instance, like you had Mitchell Hooper, Tristan Holt, and Wesley Winsky.
Yeah.
The 3 Canadians did unbelievably well.
Yeah. But after that, it's kind of like he stopped progressing. I don't know why. Is the injury stopping him? So he's invited to the Strongest Man or not, and not like Ordiako or
Stoltman or Paddy Haynes.
Yeah.
So look, that's just our opinion. We think that the top 10 athletes that are in the world's Strongest Man, even though they mightn't be like the most statically strong, I suppose.
No, but still top 10 in the world. And I understand if Brian had a competition only for top 10 guys, 10 athletes who could compete in his competition, then I get it. Then you can sort of like, maybe not to choose a couple of guys from top 10 and choose someone who you think would do better in your competition based on the events that you have in. But in this case, top 16, so, and you're picking 16 athletes over the 3 guys who were in top 3 in the world. It's kind of like, I don't know. To me, it's a bit strange.
Yeah. So look, that's what we think. Obviously, we were saying this was only announced yesterday by Brian. It's that's obviously our opinion. A lot of this stuff, we think it has some merit. You know what I mean?
I think we do. Like, Brian is not going to be probably happy with our opinion, but it's our opinion. But
we say like that's the way to qualify. But at the end of the day, it is an invitational show.
I'll say this: it would be nice to see if Brian can sort of clear that thing up for us all, because I would love to understand his thought process. Why these athletes are invited and not top 3 guys from top 10 in the World's Strongest Man.
Look, let us know in the comment section down below what you think. Are you happy with the top 16? Do you think there was other athletes that deserve to be there more? Are you happy with the events? Like all this kind of stuff. We'd actually love to see all your opinions down below, because I think these 16 athletes, some of them have taken some people by shock. So look, we love seeing the debates down below. If you made it this far in the video, make sure to press the like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. And if you are subscribed, please press the bell icon. It'll keep you up to date with everything that's Lalas Brothers. And we'll see you in a future video.
See you later, guys.